22. Wednesday, 13th of August, 2025. On the third morning, it snowed. Locrian awoke to the frigid morning with his pants damp, having come in his sleep. His skin was clammy under the heavy blankets, and the combination of the keys in his pocket and the stiff corners of the sofa made him writhe with discomfort. Outside the house, the fragile beauty of the winter scene presented itself chaste and pristine, and he left the window open as he showered and watched the steam float in clouds into the cold air. I thank God for another day. And perhaps he meant it today. Such was the glory of the quiet snowdrifts. He knew the rarity of this situation, that winters here could go by for years without snowfall, and never more than a handful of days any given year. Moreover, that the snow would likely melt away by midday, and the brown grasses, the birds and animals would carry on as though it had never existed. The dam lay covered in a sludgy skimming of ice, and a pair of galahs huddled grimly under the cover of bottlebrush branches. The coffee was made slowly before he surveyed the flurried hillside and considered the impending arrival of his sister. For today was the day, and how might they react to seeing one another again? There would be no doubt a tension seeping through the sadness, as he knew he'd been neglectful in contacting her of late. Yet maybe the grounding reality of their father's death would level the playing field somewhat, and he could lie to her and himself with little pleasantries. Yes, I'm well. I know it's been too long. This must be as hard for you as it is for me. Foolish, though, that he would feel the need to withhold candidness from his younger sister. Their bond had been one built strong over the years, and he was not so delusional to hope they might slip easily back into the comfortable palaver they'd always had. A kookaburra hopped about on the front lawn, scouring the snow layer for any insects that might be foolish enough to emerge, although it seemed the bird was having limited luck. Lockie gave his legs a gentle stretch, aching from his run the day before, and warmed his injured hand on the coffee cup. In the driveway, his car sat gripped with frost, and eventually the sun emerged from behind the cloud cover and began to fight back the icy clutches of the night's storm. A car pulled into the driveway at the bottom of the hill, and Lockie watched in anticipation as it wound itself up the path and came to a stop in the mud outside the house. A taxi, its nameless driver retrieving a suitcase from the trunk and Leah tapping her phone on the machine to pay the fare. She was taller than he'd remembered, her face expressing a weary wisdom. In his mind, she was still his kid sister, and he often forgot that they'd both become adults and changed from the memories he held in his head. She appeared frustrated. The driver had carelessly placed her bag directly on the wet ground, and Lockie instinctively ran to her and grabbed the handle to bring it to the veranda. "Hello, stranger." Her familiar voice brought a smile to his face. "Hey." They held one another in a long embrace, truncated by several pats on the back. "How are you?" Lockie asked. Dumb question, I know. "Fine. I'm fine. Let's get inside. It's bloody freezing." "You missed the snow." He poured her a coffee as she adjusted her scarf, rubbing her hands together. "The only fun part about the cold. Sounds about right. Jesus, it's so cold in here. Why haven't you got the fireplace going?" Locrian paused briefly, then continued stirring the fresh coffee. "You should have called," he said. "I'd have come to the airport to get you." Leah sighed through her teeth. "I did, Lock. Called you twice. You didn't answer." He grabbed his phone from his pocket and tapped the screen. Leah, missed call 3. He had not noticed. "Reception's pretty bad here. You know how it is." He shoved the phone sheepishly back into his pocket. "Mm-hmm." She didn't push the matter any further. God, the house has barely changed. She took a small turn about the living room, running her hand over surfaces and stopping in front of a side table with their picture on it. "Seems smaller when you're an adult." I said the same thing. "Talking to yourself again, bro?" She replaced the picture frame. "As always. How is scenic Adelaide?" Leah stopped to consider her words. "Comfortably terrible. You know, Georgia is 6 this year." Hard to believe. Look, before you say it, I know I should have come over to visit at least once. In the last 5 years? Yeah, you should have. I'm sorry. Don't worry about it, she replied. Nothing like a death in the family to bring us back together. She pulled up a stool at the kitchen bench. Lockie leaned against the opposite side, holding his coffee cup in front of him like some pathetic little shield. I've been caught up in my own head lately, he said. But we're together now. Can we try again? Leah shrugged. Her smile was loving, yet a resigned sadness remained plainly evident. The sun continued to break through the cloud cover intermittently, and the ground outside reflected its rays off the melted slurry on the ground. By now the snow had completely turned to water. So, Dad's gone, she finally said. Yeah, he paused before continuing. I saw him the other day. We need to get his will and all that. We'll get to that. Geez, they hurry you along, don't they? Not a minute to stop and grieve or even realise what's happened. He took her empty cup and rinsed it in the sink. What happened to your hand? She asked. Lockie looked to the cuts on his palm. Oh, Lantana, the other day. Slipped and grabbed at a weed, and here's the result. Leah sucked her teeth. Ouch, no guitar playing for you. I don't really play anymore. Not since I burnt my hands. You burnt your hands? No, forget it. Not sure what I'm talking about. He waved his hand dismissively. All right then. Leah rolled her eyes and stood. I'm going to go check out my old bedroom. If you can get in there, go for it. You'll see what I mean. The old stairs groaned beneath her feet. Lee, he called. He had a sudden urge to mention the gravestone he'd found at the back of the property, but then decided against it. Careful up there. I saw a snake in the shed yesterday. Left alone again momentarily, he became assailed by the versions of himself that he had sculpted during the time spent apart from his family. Self-conscious of the man he had become since he'd last seen his sister, who alongside him was the last remaining of his bloodline, the blood he knew at least, and that he was truly unmoored now. There was no cavalry to come and rescue him from the torture he inflicted upon himself, just his younger sister, who he felt should not be burdened by the torments of her older kin. What had he become, and what did he have left to give, keep, or gain? Leah's arrival had shifted a capstone in his reality. It was easy to lie to oneself in solitude. Burnt his hands. Why had he said that? The lie had come so easily. It was a small thing to dwell on, but he knew the domino effect of pathological falsities. Wow, Dad became a bit of a hoarder at the end there, didn't he? Leah stomped back down the stairs and broke his train of thought before it fully derailed itself. It took Locrian a moment to correct himself. By himself, I guess. He just shoved everything else in a corner, in those old rooms. He could have kept our rooms how we remembered them, said Leah. But I guess it's his house. We moved out. He can do what he likes. Things hidden away. What's that? Huh? Nothing. Again, she gave him that questioning look. Well, anyway, I need to do something about the heating situation here. The fireplace was at least clean of ash and soot. Their father had upkept those few rooms in the house that remained in use. Wood was stacked neatly to the side of the firebox. Leah placed kindling inside and built a small pyre before standing and looking around. Got a lighter? Lockie was standing in the kitchen with his eyes shut tightly. Sorry, what? Or matches? I'm going to warm the place up. He opened the top drawer and found a matchbook. Reaching out for his hand, Leah's sleeve slipped, and something there caught her brother's attention. Hold up, he said. Leah tugged the sleeve back down and quickly moved back to the fireplace. Reckon I still remember how to do this? She laughed nervously. I said wait. What's that on your wrist? Realising there was little point in concealing, Leah presented her forearm, which was covered in deep purple bruising. I fell, she said, in my backyard. Hurt my arm. Not broken or anything. Looks like we're both having silly accidents. Despite being aware of how contradictory he was about to sound, Locrian spoke firmly. Are you lying? Did someone do this to you? Leah struck a match, but it broke and fell to the floor. She struck another, which burnt for a few seconds before extinguishing. She dropped the entire matchbook and put her face in her hands. When he saw her eyes again, they were welling with tears. Okay, you got me, she said softly. Things haven't been great at home. Lockie was aghast. He did this? Leah stared out the window and nodded erratically, wiping her eyes clear. Leah, why didn't you tell me? And Georgia, she's... With her father, yes. He'd never do it to her. I know that. Fuck, you're sure? Yes, Lachlan, and I'm not here to talk about this, okay? Let's just get Dad's stuff sorted and get out of here. She knelt down to light the fire while Lockie compulsively shook his head in disbelief. He wanted to comfort her, fix her problems, but could do nothing but stand there uselessly. Guilt came roaring back from deep within. He thought of all the times Leah had messaged him, left him calls that were unanswered. He thought of how Lydia had repeatedly insisted that he reach out to his sister. Paralysed with indecision and caught in the riptide of overlapping emotion, he grasped for the right words to say to her, but came up empty. Leah, he said. How long? With the fire lit, she stood and angrily threw the matchbook into the flames, where it combusted in a bright and momentary spark. What does it matter how long? You'd bloody know if you made the effort to talk to me. How long? How long? Fuck off. How long did I wait for you to answer your damn phone? To reply to a message? Her fury was reaching a peak. And what about Dad? She continued. He was sick and needed us. We let him down. I couldn't get over here because of him. You needed to stand up and be here, but you weren't. Dad died alone. I didn't realise he was sick, he stammered. Yeah, well, good lot of use that news is to you now. She stood with her arms akimbo, the way she used to when she was a child. Her voice dropped low. Just, where were you? He hated the tears that had begun to form in his own eyes. I can say sorry and truly mean it. Truly mean it. I'm sorry, Leah. But they're just 2 words and it doesn't fix anything. They were interrupted by a knocking at the door.